Hello to my team. Yao here. Not quite Prince Judah. And to be honest, not quite Yao. However, the name of Yah or Yao, as I translate it, is where I stake my glory as a prophet of God, or in relation to any such claim. Not to discount Ah, and of course, always in remembrance of Jesus Christ, including the New Testament, the Old Testament, and the original works of Moses, including the Apocrypha of Moses, for those of you who've never heard of it. Nothing left out. I'm all inclusive. I prefer the truth to be complete. Truth is my name. And if ever I knew the truth, I knew it had to be complete. Love the ring to that. By the way, let me see if I can speed this up. We may have noticed I've enveloped myself in a new process. It could be an old process. Maybe I used to do it in a previous lifetime. Maybe I had to learn it all over again. It's a way of verifying my speech. It's a way of verifying the will of God. It's a perfect process. I've said this before. It's perfect timing. It's perfect precision. Well measured. By my standards of a very fine measure. Love how that just rolled off. I happen to have looked at least two different directions before it flew to me. I had to think about how I would say that. Flew to me made sense. And that's how I caught it. Yeah, that's a different pattern than usual. To be able to see this inside of my own mind or outside of my own mind, it's worth sharing. And guess where I'm sharing? That's right, to Facebook. I just started uploading to YouTube too. I'll see what that does. That takes me back to the inspiration for this video or this conversation. I've been saying this, and there's a reason I'm repeating it. I've been saying I think I know how this works. The circles and the loops. And I don't believe we know how deep it goes. But mind you, I'm very intentional every time I speak, and I'm always tracking myself, and there's no telling who's always tracking what I'm saying. I do have a track record to brag about. And I would say if it's not perfect, it's almost perfect. About as close to perfection as I can envision. I have been improving it, the quality of perfection. And every day I think about how deep does it go, or how deep can I take it. So I'm taking it deeper. And before I get too deep, I'm gonna end the recording of this video on the note I wanted to end it on. I wanted to end it on this idea or concept about how deep does it go. I think about it. Circles and loops, repetition. Remember, The heavens work in a perfect order. Of course, that's in the Bible one way or another, or in religion one way or another, or in religion one way, depending on which religion you subscribe to. Not to sound too generic, saying one way or another, one way. And not to sound too religious, one way is the way, because God is not double-minded, if you understand what that means. However, in a perfect order, and take a look at that flow. However, in a perfect order is better described as one way, although, excuse me, although one way doesn't necessarily imply one way only. One way could imply more than one direction. Now, it's not as if the sun orbits in a way that's not one way. It's not as if the stars orbit in a way that's not one way. It's not as if when you drive on the road doesn't navigate one way. Of course not, because then it would be confusing if driving didn't work or function one way. What also inspired me as I was getting ready to have this conversation, I was thinking about what I do. And I would swear there's no way to attach my name to anything that makes money. Not to say that that's an absolute fact, because I know that's not true. However, unfortunately, unfortunately, to make sure I get my grammar perfect, you can actually hear what changes depending on the grammar I apply. You can hear it in the key. God has a natural key. If you can find God, or if you can find the key, or if you know the right ring to it, or if you know the right ring, or the ring that God is wearing. God has a ring, all kinds of rings, not just one ring. I almost would have said not just one tone. Rather, I would say lots of colors, lots of personalities, lots of mannerisms. Not always as boring as I sound. That was me just taking a jab at myself, applying a little humor, if we can believe it. There's a book, one of my favorite spiritual texts or holy texts, titled The Shepherd of Hermas. In that book, it talks about the impossibility of God working for money as a prophet. And I sense a very serious truth to that, having walked this journey that I've walked. And so I've been wondering where I fit in, to rewind to a point I was getting to earlier in this video. Where do I fit in if what I do doesn't make money? And even if it's worth more than money? So here I am strategizing, because there's supposed to be some lane for me that works for me. And I'm thinking, what if that's true? What if what I do is worth money and worth more than money? And what if I don't have a product I sell personally, or anything that I sell? As a prophet of God, I guess that's one of the reasons I gave up sales. Not that sales is evil. So, anyways, not to make this too long, I appreciate all of you listening, just strategizing here. Been having to, I'm sorry, excuse me, grammar. I've been having to adjust how I view my class, socioeconomics.